One. So Sydney White, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, yeah. And I see that you're a filmmaker, content creator, and you're based out of PG County, Upper Marlboro, Bowie area.
That's correct.
I have a lot of family based in that area. So Sydney, executive producer, content creator. How about you tell me a little bit more about yourself, what you do and what you've been up to?
Sure. So for 20 some odd years, since the last century, I have been a television producer, largely freelance. And more recently, for about 2.5 years, I've taken a full-time job with Special Olympics, where I'm the senior director of content and storytelling for the international organization.
Fantastic. That's great. And so doing what you love and doing for a great cause.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how have you been impacted recently? You know, maybe this, obviously the last 6+ months.
Yeah. So I think like everyone, you know, it's really been a learning curve on how to get comfortable professionally, personally, kind of balance all the needs of everybody. For work in terms of Special Olympics, we decided as an organization to pivot. You know, a lot of what we do, we're known for sports, but we have an education, a health, and leadership component. Because if you're an athlete and you're not healthy, you can't compete. If you have all these great skills that you get from being an athlete, like teamwork, discipline, communication, where else can you use those skills? So, you know, leadership program helps prepare people for work, doing other volunteer work in their communities, advocating for themselves. And in education, if we can start talking about inclusion with young people, then it helps everybody. And in the schools, we found that having Special Olympics programs in the schools brings down bullying and brings up the morale of the whole school, students and staff. So we decided to take all that programming, which is, you know, largely in person and available to athletes around the world. They are really missing that now, as you know, as we all are. So we decided as an organization to, you know, do as much programming, have as many as events online. All of that, of course, has to come through the communications department, whether that's creating more videos or helping get the word out. You know, instead of for example, in England, instead of them having national games, they had virtual games. You know, so not that I would get the word out about England, but if we have any international events, then, you know, my team might create some promo videos and then work with the social team and the PR team to make sure that we get that out. So it was a lot of work for the whole organization, for, you know, the programming units to change how they did things, and for the content unit. And we're doing a lot of like what you're doing now, taking advantage of Zoom. You know, can we have, you know, we have Big Show is one of our ambassadors, celebrity ambassadors, and we had him surprise an athlete on Zoom, and we recorded that, and then we get that out. So, you know, we have two actors in Hollywood who both have Down syndrome. They interviewed each other, and we pitched that out. And so I think there's some online magazines, I can't say at this point, that might be sharing that. So for, again, like everybody else, we're just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, how we can make it work, you know, while balancing. I got 2 kids, 13 and 15, and my husband, sometimes he has to go in, sometimes he's at home. So, you know, trying to balance all that, keep everybody happy, uplifted, and moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've mentioned it on the show before that I spent a couple of years trying to set up a home studio. Luckily, and me and a number of previous guests have constantly used the word blessed on the show. And again, I'm still even now trying to figure out, you know, where did that blessing come from? Was it kind of a hindsight before to jump on, you know, not only writing and producing and directing, traditionally, what we always think of traditional filmmaking, TV series, and that sort of thing, but also jumping on the more trending technologies of live streaming and VR and AR, altered reality, and digital content and animation and voiceover. And I didn't have like a psychic vision that there's going to be a pandemic or anything. I think it was just knowing my girlfriend, who then eventually became my fiance and eventually my wife. I knew she would want to have kids, and so how was there a way to set up to work from home more, remotely edit, do voiceover work,
Right.
write, maybe put together a podcast and all this sort of newer kind of new media.
So do you find doing all that, doing it at home, and I know from listening to some of your podcasts, you have a baby, so congratulations.
Yep. Thank you. Yep.
That you are able to manage your time so that you can fit in the work when you can or when you want to, and you can help with your wife and the baby?
Yeah, well, when the quarantine first started, I thought, man, this is going to be awesome. I have so much time to be able to knock out so much stuff and be hands-on, with the wife and kid and spend so much time with the family. And I think I've gotten even more busier now during the quarantine than I ever have going to this set or that location or this gig or that gig in person on location. So, I mean, it's a blessing. And of course, this whole quarantine, this whole pandemic it's not a blessing in such a way that, it has been tragic and it has been detrimental for a lot of folks, but it's important for, it is sad for a lot of those who have died, who have lost loved ones. But, for me, it was like, okay, we got to be extra cautious and look out for each other and be safe and
right.
take all those precautions. But at the same time, we have to, take advantage of the upside. And there's always an upside to everything.
Exactly. You got to find a silver lining and exploit it.
Exploit that silver lining. Exactly.
Yeah. I think, and like you, I don't know if I had time. I mean, it was so busy at work. I don't know if I had time to think, oh, I'll get a lot done.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely was feeling the pressure of, because we were probably working a little bit longer and harder than we normally were. Again, like you said, on really important work and really satisfying work.
Yeah.
I think I didn't realize how much oversight my kids would need, because they're 13 and 15. So you think, they're pretty self-motivated. But like my son, who's 13, he was 12 at the time. You got to make sure he's got the computer on. He's sitting up. He changed out of his pajamas. Somebody's computer is not working. You got to fix it. All that stuff. I think I'm partially, maybe like halfway through my first draft of a novel. And I thought maybe to have a little bit more time, but just the pressure of being really great for work, being really great at home. Oh, we can cook more. Creatively, it took me a while to get into that creative space where I had to even figure out how to get back into how could I find my connection back into writing?
Yeah.
So I had to slow down and say, okay, you're not writing. It's okay. And everything you're doing is enough. It's okay. Whatever you're doing is okay.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, how can I get back into it? I handwrite, and then I transferred into my computer. So I said, okay, I had about 5 chapters that hadn't been into the computer. So let me gear up doing that. And I had stopped reading for a while because I was just so concentrated on the writing.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, okay, I need to read because that's my passion, and stories, that feeds me. It feeds my creativity. So let me read a couple of things, and then let me watch something that's just fanciful so that, boundaries. Mm-hmm. The kind of work I do when I write for the website is very, fact-based, structured to share information, and my novel writing is a little bit different than that. So I just needed to allow myself to enjoy fiction in the way that I normally do. And so things have, now that we've kind of got our footing at work, school's just started, but we know what that looks like because we've been through the end of the school year.
Yeah.
So I've started to get back. And then when I was listening to your interview with Sean Murphy, who wrote Chapel Street. He's
Mm-hmm.
a executive producer. He works at Towson,
Mm-hmm.
adjunct professor. He's one of my writing buddies, or
Okay.
mentors, I should say. He's one of my writing mentors. And so that really was also very inspiring, and remembering that I owed him an update. And so if I owe him an update on my writing, I better get some writing done.
And it's
He
funny.
holds me accountable.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Sean Murphy, because my guest yesterday, I mentioned Sean Murphy about, okay, so now that you have all this time, and well, my guest yesterday, Tom Ryan, he's a filmmaker in New Jersey, and he does a bunch of independent films, and he's prepping for his second feature anthology film. But he was given advice, like, write what you know, start writing small. If you're a filmmaker, maybe if you're just a screenwriter, write what you want to write and shop it, what have you. But Sean Murphy had mentioned starting with a novelization of that screenplay first.
Yeah.
And so, because if you start with a novelization, you could, probably sell it on Amazon as an ebook. And if it does well as a, best-selling novel, semi-best-selling novel, top 20 charts, top 50 charts, top 100 charts, still that's a pitch in and of itself, because Stephen King's books don't even have to be pitched anymore.
Right.
It's, studios are just like,
when's your book coming out?
Stephen King wrote a book, give it over here.
Right.
Start, transcribing into a screenplay, like just copy and paste into final draft. So taking that at a much lower level, say you're, struggling screenwriter, novelize all your screenplays, make a novel out of it, novella, novel, or even a short story, and, sell that however, books are sold today, and then progress to the screenplay and so on and so forth. Yeah.
And I know one of his points too, one of Sean's points is that if you write a book or short story, even, you might get better insight to your characters, their motivation, what they would do, so that when it comes time to writing the screenplay, you have that at your disposal as a tool to really get your story across. Yeah.
Because a novel, the author could, narrate himself, but, but that would drive us absolutely insane if every single movie had a narrator. Yeah,
but you can translate it. It's not apple to apple translation.
Mm-hmm.
It still give you the background research, and I don't mean research and go find it, but background internal research to inform your characters and the action.
Right, and that's where the translation from book to screenplay comes. But like you said, there could be a whole slew of notes. I mean, obviously the cast could read the book and focus on that character, and really like get the author's narration, the author's insight into the character's mind.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's not written for the screen. Action, scenery, and dialogue is written for the screen, and you're supposed to, and that's supposed to be interpreted through the film. But if you're reading a book, you build that whole universe, and so the cast could read that and kind of build their own character and go off of that. But it's still the writer's vision.
Right. Yeah, I never thought about that. That's a good point.
It's just, but it's still it's a different translation of that writer's vision from book to screenplay, but it's still that writer's vision. So that could be another trick. I know a lot of screenwriters that are so like hell bent on like, no, you can't change my screenplay. You can't change the character from male to female, or you can't change the location from inside to outside. You can't do it. And it's like, from a director's standpoint, you can, because you're still not losing character emphasis, or you're still not losing story. But if a screenwriter were to novelize that first and then turn it into a screenplay, then he's got this extra here to the director and here to the cast, to build this extra universe within the back of your mind when thinking to then translate to screenplay and then translate it to shots and shot lists and so on.
So it could make it easier then for not just pre-production but production
and development, pre-production, production. All that would be simplified with a novelization. Now, and like we just said, pitching it. Hey, listen, I got a book and it did well on Amazon Kindle. So
here's some good reviews.
Mm-hmm. What more do I need to say? I mean, it's a pretty decent book. And then again, I've never even come close to trying to pitch something like that. So do you have to wait for them to read the book, or do some studio heads are just like,
I don't know either. I'll let you know though.
green light, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Let me know. Let me know. Well, you mentioned, while you were writing, you were reading, you were watching fantastical things. What have you been watching? What have you been reading?
Okay.
For escape, for, studying. Because for me, a lot of my binge watching really is like studying, kind of definitely. As well. It's always like, a 3-part thing: escape, relaxation, and studying. But
right. Yeah. My husband gets tired. My children, my sister, when I'm working out loud when I'm watching something, like, oh, that's a great shot, or something's a little funky with that audio, and they're like, can you just watch? No, whatever your job is, generally you live that. Like my husband is in food service, his career, and so we go to a restaurant, he's looking at the rug and will show a stain if you drop something. So I don't feel bad about working while I'm watching. I can't help it. And if you love what you do, then that's a good thing. But I shouldn't say too fantastical. So I just finished reading, I can't even think of the name of the book. The author wrote Night Circus, and her new book, it'll come to me in this conversation, but it's about storytellers and storytelling and guardians of stories. It is a little bit fantastical.
So the story is about storytellers.
It is.
Okay.
So that was really helpful. I'm going to look it up while we're talking. And then
I'll bring it up.
Okay.
Erin Morgenstern.
Yep. So it's not Night Circus, but it's her other one. That's what happens when you read on Kindle.
The Starless Sea.
The Starless Sea. Mm-hmm. Okay. And like there was an alternate universe kind of, and basically a video, someone who is working on his master's degree on video games and the stories behind and in video games.
Oh wow, okay.
Kind of has had chances throughout his life to open a door. Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
To like open a door to this other world where there's a starless sea. Okay. And he hasn't chosen it sometimes, and he finally is given an opportunity to, should I walk through that door or not? And he meets in this alternate universe, there's people who tell stories, there are people who guard stories, and there's people who, kind of make sure that stories are told, but it's like a secret society, and there's good guys, bad guys, all that. So I really liked it because I needed to get back into my own storytelling. So that was really fun read. And so watching television right now, I kind of have 3 things going on. I have just discovered Poldark on PBS Masterpiece. They wrapped Poldark, Poldark.
Poldark, okay.
Yep, and I love that kind of Jane Austen type books and films. So it's that, it's Masterpiece, PBS Masterpiece. There are 5 seasons. I'm on season 3. So that's my watching when I don't have anything else to watch. I just finished streaming on Netflix, Woke. My friend Marshall Todd, who was my Howard University buddy, was executive producer, the lead writer and developer on that. So that was fun. I have a film discussion group on Saturday. We will be discussing that. But it was fun for me because I know him and I could hear in the characters sometimes, oh, that's something Marshall would say. He must have written that line. And that's like half-hour kind of, it's a sitcom, but it's kind of, talking about what's going on today in society. And then my third thing is a Korean K-drama. They're called K-dramas. It was a Korean drama. And it's also about storytelling a bit. There's a woman, one of the main characters is a children's writer. But she's got some mental health issues, and she is falling in love with the other main character whose brother has autism. And so, as you know, working at Special Olympics, to see someone with autism with an intellectual disability, which is different from a mental disability, being treated on film or on television as a normal person who, you know, they might have challenges that are a little bit different from mine, but, you know, just to see someone with an intellectual disability be treated as a main character and being treated as normal. And they do a really good job of kind of explaining the difference between intellectual disability and mental disability. And the clothes are fabulous. And there's a lot of character development. They really take their time with kind of revealing why the characters have the issues that they do.
Yeah. What's that show?
I'm sorry?
What's the name of it?
It's Okay to Not Be Okay.
Yeah, I think I've seen advertisements for that. That's on Netflix, right?
That's on Netflix, yeah. It's in Korean. You know, I have to read the subtitles.
Oh, it's a subtitled show. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Kim's Convenience. When you said K Korean, I thought you were going to say Kim's Convenience, which is it's kind of like it's not a mockumentary, but it's kind of like the Office type humor. It's about a Korean Canadian family that run a convenience store in Montreal or Toronto or one of those. Ontario. I think it's Ontario. Kim's Convenience, fantastic show. It's
all right,
just a
check it out, because Woke is over, so I need a third one, because I don't like to watch the same thing every night. Like, I like to go back and forth, and then
you got to switch it up and like switch gears sometimes.
Yeah.
Woke reminds me of Atlanta. Donald Glover's Atlanta.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. yet, but I've seen trailers, and it's definitely on my queue. But it's just so hard to, you know, try to get into something because the wife makes her decision within 10 minutes. She goes, no, don't want to watch it. And then I got to find time to watch it alone somehow.
Yeah.
And so, I'm watching Agent Carter, about Peggy Carter. She was involved with Captain America in the first MCU Captain America.
Okay.
And then she had her own show. And, you know, it's really cool. You know, it's obviously a family show, but they're definitely delving into like the struggles women had in the 40s and 50s to stand out, be an independent woman, have a career, be taken seriously. And, you know, spoiler alert, it's like the second someone starts taking her seriously, the second a man starts taking Peggy seriously as an agent, as a government agent, as a spy, as a soldier, as a strong, independent woman, then they get killed. And it's like, maybe you should have done that earlier, and you're going to survive the show. And right. those who do always survive the show. So it's like, lesson learned. But,
right.
Back to Starless Sea. That about like the magic of storytelling and the seriousness. I don't know if you ever read the Earthsea series of books.
Mm-mm.
What's the Ursula? Earthsea, but the author's name is Earthsea is the name of this book series. And the magical power in this is names. You know, knowing someone's birth name or middle name. It's tricky. And the book, I read the first book. I think that was for like, you know, a high school, you know, book report assignment or whatever the case may be. And I wanted to follow up on the rest of the series, but the whole magic within that kind of universe is names, knowing someone's name. And, you know, like, I guess, you know, then they come up with nicknames to kind of protect their real name and not give away their power, if you would. But it's a unique kind of wizard book universe where names of all things, names is the superpower.
All right, well, I'll take a look.
But yeah, so going back, I met the Big Show as well. I was deployed and WWE came out to Kuwait. How did you fit that guy into the building? I don't know how you did that.
Man, so his hands is bigger than my face.
Yes.
He is one of our best advocates. I mean, he understands Special Olympics inside and out. And there's a lot of pieces to Special Olympics, like I said, beyond the sports. And and he shows up. Like, we'll have an event, we don't even know, he'll show up. He heard about it, he'll show up. He brings other WWE wrestlers with him. We have a series called Sports School. It was his idea, but he got Becky Lynch, who's also a WWE champion, to kind of host it along with 6 other Special Olympics athletes. And it's a series of 4 videos where they're taking athletes through warm-ups and exercises and cool down at different levels, so you can do it with your family. Again, like you said, it's out of our health and fitness department, and they weren't doing it knowing what was going to happen, but it just so happened that when it got finished, it was a great time to give the athletes some content to keep them active, fit, and engaged. But he's just a force of nature. And we, sometimes each year we go to Capitol Hill, what we call Capitol Hill Day, to visit different representatives and senators to just talk about Special Olympics and let them know who we are, what we're doing. And he will sit down. Everybody's going to look at him. Like, you're just going to look at him. I don't care who else is in the room.
You can't not.
You got to look at him.
He towers over everybody, or he's just blocking everybody behind him.
And he, WWE, they're great storytellers as well. So he can really, he can get the facts out, but he weaves it into his own story and how he became involved in college. And by the time they're finished, everybody wants to take pictures with him. I mean, you want to take pictures anyway, but he's a great guy. The WWE are great partners. And then there's one thing we'll get back to, because I have a question for you about your military service. But one of the things that we talk about now and that he talks about, which is really great, is that Special Olympics athletes feel isolated a lot. People are scared of them or don't know that you can talk to them like you can talk to any other person. And so a point that they are always making is, now that we have social distancing and a lot of us are feeling socially isolated, that's how they feel all the time. And for a lot of them, if it wasn't for Special Olympics, they wouldn't have a community that accepts them and allows them to use their talents. And, we have Special Olympics athletes who are, we have one that just became a lawyer. We have lifeguards, we have chefs, fashion designers. The sky's the limit. But it's really a good time for us to be empathetic and to understand the isolation that they feel. So I just wanted to make that point, and I meant to make it earlier. But I wanted to ask you, when you were in the military, which branch?
Well, I'm currently in the DC Army National Guard.
And then
So yeah, part-time.
Okay. My brother was a Marine. He's not anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Hoorah.
Yep.
As they say. Yeah. But going back to learning curves, you're right. And it's like trying to figure out this isolation and figure out different methods of dealing with stress, or figuring out like you said, learning curves for working from home, teleworking, and how all the safety measures, if you can't work from home, if it's construction or plumbing or electrician or what have you, it's, and all the essential workers, it's right. now it's just tacking on all these safety measures and all these safety precautions, and
just the stress of like, if I go to the grocery store, am I coming home with a disease? I mean, everything that we took for granted became extra dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And so allowing, like, it took a minute for me anyway to allow myself some just extra space. I'm really thankful that this happened for our part of the world during summer, so that we could just, we spend a lot of time outside. Before it got really hot, my daughter and I every Sunday would go on a hike. And so we can start that up again. But just being able to do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel good for at least some part of the day. And so for me, that's, that's my morning routine. My morning routine is my me time. I'm not thinking much outside of making it through the exercise, making it through the power walk or whatever strength training I'm doing with good music, listening to the music. Then I do my meditation. So hopefully I'm not thinking about too much. Showering and my breakfast time, and then 7:30, I'm ready for the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what moving on to, getting ready for the world. What's next on the agenda for Sydney White and the productions what's next on the agenda, say the next 6 months to a year?
Hopefully I can get this first draft of my novel finished. I do have some clients, some weekend clients a couple of new people who need just some script writing for like a 1-minute video, promo video, or informational videos. So trying to get, kind of figure out, are we taping those outside? Are we doing?
Well, have you been back on set yet?
Yes, I have, for live stream. When we all had our masks and we all were on like our four corners of the room. The initial way that the live stream was supposed to have kind of like people like
a panel.
It was a panel, but then there was a host, and then 3 people would leave, and then 3 people would, or 1 person would leave, 1 person would come 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't, we had to kind of work around that. So we had the host, we had somebody come in, sit far away. That person would leave. The host would talk by herself, so the next person could come in without them really having to cross paths. So I think that was just the one time. I'm preparing for an outdoor shoot where it'll be me, talent, camera, audio. And, again, trying to be safe, social distance. Also, in this time, I did launch kind of my creative counseling, creative coaching work. So I started with a 21-day series on 21 days to boosting joy through play, and kind of just connecting adults back with putting a little bit of play in your life every day, experiencing a little bit of joy every day, just as a way to either boost creativity, just to remember to get off the treadmill and just to remember that life is meant to be enjoyed, not just get through it. And so that was really, really, really popular, and I ended up having to cut it off at a certain level. And so now the next thing, I'm going to be partnering up with Bomani Arma, who does a lot of education through hip hop. So he'll teach anything like science, English through hip hop, but we're going to do use his curriculum to help people unlock their confidence, to find their voice through this hip hop writing course, so that they feel that they can speak up for themselves, that they can really know who they are going into the new year, and kind of affect change for themselves in this tumultuous time. So we're looking forward to probably launching that in October.
Awesome.
And then I have some meditations on the Insight Timer app, and I'm kind of finalizing my 10-part unlocking your creativity meditation series. So meditations and affirmations designed specifically to unlock your creativity for artists. So hopefully that'll be done.
So that's the app Insight.
The app is called Insight Timer.
Insight Timer.
Yeah, I have 2 meditations and affirmation meditation on there right now.
Awesome.
But there's not a lot, there's not a lot of meditations to support artists. That's what I'm looking to do.
It's mind-boggling that now during this quarantine, I might check. I'm definitely gonna check out Insight Timer, but I downloaded the app Calm, and I was using what I didn't unlock it yet, but I used what free little things they had for free, like the different ambient noises, the sleep app and the meditation and the calming things during this time, instead of maybe when I needed it, when I was just at gig. But when you're isolated, you kind of need, I guess when you're isolated, you need something that you didn't expect you needed. And the wife, and like you said, with creative counseling, creative coaching / coaching, my wife was taking some free painting lessons on Zoom and well, maybe painting, sip and paint happy hours, Zoom happy hours, for, a little bit of wine, a little bit of painting, a little bit of a creative outlet, and that sort of thing. And we had done that a couple of times, Muse Paint Bar.
Yes.
Some
We've
of those
gone to the Muse on this side of town.
Yeah. But where'd you go?
But now you might be able to, maybe you'll stick with some of the meditations, and you'll know though that that's a tool for you to use when you're busy or not.
I mean, that's possible, but for 10, 15 years, I've just loved being full-time freelance. I've loved doing what I do. So when I get on set, I'm excited. The endorphins are going. I'm excited. That is kind of like my counseling, my meditation.
And so that's what I was going to say. For some people, you don't have to do meditation that we think of meditation, but for some people, what they're doing is meditation. If you are in the zone, then that's meditation. I mean, really, it's just quieting your mind so that you block out all but one thing, and be in that pure moment, be in the moment. And so if that's what you're doing when you're on set, like you said, that adrenaline for being on set and collaborating to bring something to life that wasn't there before. I mean, even just now talking about it, I'm getting chills, because that's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about bringing all that together to tell stories.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what would you say is your view of the new normal?
Right now, or what it might be?
What it might be.
So I'm hoping that the places that aren't, well, I'm hoping that we've learned that we can be a little bit more flexible about where people work. And so, I know that there's a lot of organizations that have found, I know there's one cable network that I shall not name, but is considering now people staying at home forever. Like, it just might be cheaper for them. Other places might just be a little bit more lenient, or letting people work from home 1 or 2 days a week, and give them a little bit more balance, so that for me, fortunately, I was allowed to work home 1 day a week, and just being able to have a bit of a break from the commute meant a lot. And it was really meant the next day when I came up to work, I would take off. My day was Wednesdays. So that second half of the week, I had a little bit more energy going into it, because at least I cut down, 2 hours of commute time. So, I'm hoping that we can work differently, maybe even allow ourselves to, if we are working from home, work from home somewhere else. Like I've had some relatives who had some health problems, and I did go for a week. And I was able to work from there. So I'm hoping there'll be a little bit more of that. I think I'd love to get your opinion on this, that I feel that during this time, maybe at least for now, and maybe for a little bit after, we as a society have learned a bit, I'm hoping, that to honor our storytellers a little bit more. People miss television, missed the stories that have been being told, missed fresh content. I think a lot of people have turned to music, and so we need to honor the musicians. I know a lot of people are catching up on their reading, so we need to honor those folks, and people who remind us of our humanity and our beauty. And I'm just hoping that we don't forget that so quickly. Yeah,
but at the same time, I think one of the main critiques I've gotten from about what's on Netflix, what's on Hulu, what's coming out, like a lot of the content that had been coming out for the last 5 years, is that it's a lot of the same actors, it's a lot of the same subject material. If it bleeds, it leads, that sort of thing. So it's a lot. It's all the same stuff done in the same exact way over and over again. There's always got to be like at least 2-3 stars in the show. And, a lot of times these kind of properties, these projects write themselves. And now you've got a lot of, outside thinkers putting together projects that are so outside the box and so so left field, way right field, way outside the box. Not in a political standpoint, but
Right, right, but just different from what we're
but
used to seeing.
just so different from what we're used to seeing, because we are caught in this sort of can't be on set type thing. How do we pull off different things? Very minimal cast, very minimal crew. Okay, completely restructuring from a production and from a viewer standpoint what that norm is, and it's going to give those filmmakers and those content creators that opportunity to get their stuff released, because content is king.
Yep.
Not how it's made, but what's being made. Content is king.
Yep.
And if people are clicking, if people are liking, if people are viewing, that's going to stand out. And then then the big execs and the big wigs are going to be like, wow, okay, maybe there's something to this, and there's going to be this new media. We've always had new media.
Right.
People,
Uber new.
Yeah, like uber new media. People took from Howard Stern. When Howard Stern went to Sirius, he changed up a lot of things, and then people saw like, well, hey, I don't have a contract with Sirius, but I got a YouTube channel. So they kind of took that Howard Stern model 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and started podcasts and internet radio shows and audio casts and uncensored, clean or dirty. They took that Stern model. And then people started coming out with web series and, micro dramas, 5-minute episodes, 10-minute episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Now Quibi's doing it. Now there's an entire app dedicated to that model, Quibi.
Right.
And then
we're starting to see talent emerge from those uber new techniques. Like, who was I talking to recently? Someone was like, oh, I was watching, there's a show on Hulu called Jerome, no.
Jerome, no.
Yeah, and the episodes are like 18 minutes or 23 minutes or 25 minutes or, and someone was saying to me, but how long is it? I was like 18 minutes, 25 minutes, between 18. Well, but how long is it? A half an hour? It's just what it is. And that's okay now. There's no commercials that need to be scheduled at a particular time. So
you're right. So Jerome, no. So that's a very unique show. So those episodes, I think you're right. They're like 10 or 15 minutes. And so they took Jerome, no, and they found a way to play it on FX by making a bigger show called Cake. So Cake is on FX, and then FX can be streamed on Hulu.
So Cake is the show where, do they have like different shows? And
they got a bunch of little other micro videos
baked in.
that baked in. Exactly. That's why it's called Cake.
Right.
All these little micro episodes baked in. They probably took these other little short videos from YouTube or Vimeo or what have you. Like they found a unique 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute video, and they'll put a couple of those first, and then an episode of Jerome, no, and then a couple of those after it, and then that's an episode of Cake. But within Cake is an episode of Jerome. No.
Okay.
Because I think Jerome, no was, maybe it was a web series or something, and it's hilarious. It's so awkward. It's sometimes it's so uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah,
it's like true office type humor where it's just this poor guy. He just
he's not getting it. He's just not getting
Jerome.
He's not gonna. Yeah, Jerome, no.
No.
So for what you do, is that exciting? I mean, the uber new, the new paradigm. However,
so
is that exciting or is that worrying?
It's exciting because number one, listen, what else am I going to do right now? There's no, I don't have, even before the quarantine, we had such a limited budget that I started thinking outside the box. And so what I decided, and I told my colleagues about this, like this is going to be kind of like the 5-year game plan, is if it takes place in the DC or Marvel universe, do it like a docudrama or documentary. Anything else, do it like a motion comic, like a comic book or an animation or stop motion. So I had a zombie, I had a zombie script, a police suspense thriller, a psychological sci-fi thriller, and those 3 will be done like in the motion comic or animation kind of way with voiceovers, not much on set, not much production. But then but then there's a DC web series and a Marvel web series we have. They're shot like those ID crime shows. So I said, okay, here's fantasy, sci-fi, and here's real life, but produce them in the opposite way. Save money, content. It's thinking outside the box. And then the second this quarantine happened, I said, okay, just kick it in overdrive, because still no one's shooting nothing. No one's shooting anything. No one's got money to shoot it. No one wants to shoot anything. So, okay, you can do this remotely. 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 Send it to me, through Google Drive or Dropbox, what have you, and then edit. And because that was kind of the way we were doing it before. Even before the quarantine, me and my same colleagues, we attempted a podcast like this remotely, because one was in Oklahoma, one was in Richmond, and I was here in the DC, right outside DC. And we were tempted to do the podcast, like the first 2 episodes of this old podcast were done in person, but unforeseen reasons, they had to move. I said, okay, just at the time, I think we were using Google Hangouts and or Skype.
Yeah.
But now, with the interface of Zoom and, my mistakes and my failures from that, and like I said, being blessed, and I jumped on live streaming, and then a lot of my corporate and industrial gigs, I just compiled some, ideas and expertise and put this together. And so far, this has been running, on a nonstop, locomotive type of just downhill, and it's been going good so far. Now we'll see, a year from now, will I do that? Will I do this podcast in the studio? Will I even have time to do this podcast if bigger, better gigs start popping up? I still obviously want to, continue that, but it's about flexibility. It's about, even before the quarantine, it was like, what else are we doing? I'm on set doing, half the time I'm on set, it's not stuff that I love to do, but it's still in audio video. And then there's times I'm on set and I'm acting, or I'm an AD, I'm a first AD on a comedy, or I'm an AC on an action film, or I'm an actor in a crime show. That's what I truly love doing. But if it's a live event, or if it's live streaming, or if it's a concert, that's not my end all be all, but at least it's still in audio video. I love what I do.
And the good thing is, with your backdrop, you can take that anywhere. Yeah. And you can talk to people, like when things open up, you can talk to people, you can sit somebody right next to you in front of the Maryland side.
Yeah. And
you take your flags, and then, so where are you? You said you were outside of DC.
Right outside DC, Montgomery County.
You're in Montgomery County. Okay.
Yeah. When we get offline, I'll give you my exact address.
Okay. But we're neighbors. We're both in counties that have not opened up to phase 3 yet, basically.
Well, there's my wife's a 3rd grade teacher, so we're hearing rumblings that aren't making us happy, and it's worrying and it's upsetting. It's about who's in charge, and then next in line, and then next in line, and then it's like.
So is she back to work?
She's Zoom teaching.
She's Zoom teaching with the baby. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
So we are doing daycare. So we are doing hands-on daycare, at a small, very small daycare provider.
That's good.
She's only taken 5 kids. She's been vetted.
That makes me feel, I just couldn't imagine, like a lot of teachers are having to teach and then they have kids at home. And that's one thing I'm going to warn you, if nobody told you, watching TV, how you and your wife can watch what you want, but when your kids get to a certain age, you can't watch what you want to watch when they're awake. So just be prepared.
Disney Plus. I already bought it.
Okay.
I already got it. Yeah, Disney Plus and all the extra packages that go in there. Yeah, because we put them in. Sometimes we don't put them in front of the TV that much, but we're both, me and my wife. We were in love with Winnie the Pooh when we were kids. So his whole room's decked out with Winnie the Pooh. So every once in a while, we'll put him in front of Disney Plus. He's only 6 months, coming up on 7 months, but we'll put him in front of Winnie the Pooh now sometimes. Mm-hmm. But it's mostly we're hands-on, and he's got like his little learning toys, and we're just, playing with them.
Yeah, no, it was just like, the kids went to bed at 7:30, so we could watch TV at 8. But then the kids went to bed at 8. Then we watch TV at 9. The kids go to bed at 9. It's like, when are we supposed to watch TV?
Yep. And once they're teenagers, then it's like, okay, tonight we're watching what I want to watch. You know, but a lot of the stuff I watch is for kids, right? Marvel and DC stuff. That's almost for kids anyway.
They can all watch together. So one interesting thing just about television, my husband is not, he was not, you know, he's American now. He wasn't born in America. So he didn't grow up here. And so some of the cultural references just, and I have to remember, oh yeah, you didn't watch that show, or you're not familiar with that commercial.
Yeah.
So that's always really interesting. Like as the kids are learning, my husband's learning sometimes.
Stop pulling a Michael Scott. What's a Michael Scott?
Right.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Stop being Dwight or
where's the beef? If I ask where's the beef, he doesn't know what that's from.
Where's the beef? Yeah, I remember that. Or Serenity Now.
Yes.
Yeah. I get that because you know, in my unit there's a lot of cultural differences, and so I don't find a lot of instances where we'll make like Serenity Now or Where's the Beef kind of cultural specific pop culture references like that. But sometimes
it's more like if we're watching TV and someone makes a reference,
okay,
and he's like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
And then I'll have to explain, because a lot of it, you know, like there's a lot of shows that he did get to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like weird. It's just weird gaps of American cultural references in other content that he may or may not have.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that because I remember there was a buddy of mine. He's from Belarus, which is outside Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking movies, we were talking Sam Raimi, and I mentioned Darkman. And in the first Darkman, Liam Neeson played Darkman. In the second and third one, Arnold Vosloo, I think his name is, played Darkman. And we had this big argument. I'm like, bro, Liam Neeson was Darkman. And he goes, no, the guy from something. I'm like, you guys didn't get the first one then. You guys got the second ones. Because, you know, the sequels didn't do that well. So then they extra push the international sales.
Exactly.
And so when people in other countries think those are the main films, I'm like, okay, that's what it is. That's what it is. So like they get different properties. What was the other one? You know, like there was another example. You know, like they might have seen, you know, Rambo 2 and 3 more than they saw the first one. Like they might not be familiar with the first one, the one where he takes out all the cops in the mountains, and they're right, exactly, because there might have been a push for the sequels because they didn't do that well or whatever the case may be. So so that's where I got like this big. It was with films. That's where I got like this big, how some cultural differences are where they're not getting the first film. They're not getting, or
sometimes just series that we've never heard of too. They'll get, or you know, it just bombed here, so you never saw it, and then you'll go to a certain country and it was a hit, and they want to talk about it, and you're like, what? Or you pass, you see these American accents or hear the accents, and you're like, what? And they're like, oh yeah, that's such and such, and I'm like, I have never seen that show ever.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, if there was one last bit of advice you want to put out to our viewers, what would that be?
I would say right now, just whatever it is that you're passionate about, find a way to do it a little bit, even if it's one day a week, if it's 1 hour a week, if it's not something that you work, you know, that you have built into your work. You know, if you can do it, my goal, I don't always make it, but my goal is to write on my book 5 hours a week. You know, sometimes it is one if I'm busy, but I try to keep at it so that I just don't lose the muscle, and so that at least once during the week I've touched down on a passion area.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to maintain the idea that I'm going to get up out of bed and do A, B, C, D all the way to Z every day, as if there was no quarantine. You know, don't get complacent and don't just walk around in you know, the bathroom all day, every day for months on end. Get up, shower, shave, get dressed in, you know, clothes, not just gym shorts and a t-shirt.
Although I will
or
say,
bathrobe.
I have my walking around slippers and I have my work slippers.
I will admit,
my feet are going to be comfortable.
I will admit, I bought a bunch of loafers, like different loafers for different occasions that are just slip on. You know, they're nice look, they're nice, you know, stylish loafers, but they don't have laces. It's just, you know, these slip on loafers.
Yep.
So yep, I'm right there with you, but still it's like, okay, I'm going to get up at a reasonable hour. I'm not going to sleep in until 1. I'm going to get up. I'm going to, you know, and get to work. I'm going to sit down here and I'm going to do a task or a number of tasks throughout the day.
Yeah. And that's what gives us our day's shape and can keep us going too through difficult times, is if we can keep up with some of the habits and some of the whatever for us is ceremony for the day.
Structure.
Yep, some structure.
Yeah. Yep. Structure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, any socials, links, plugs you want to put out there?
Sure. I'm on Instagram, Twitter at SYDNYE. SYDNYE is SYDNYE. White like the color. And my website is SYDNYWhite.com. Again, Sydney is SYDNYE. And also, I always got to say, check out SpecialOlympics.org. A lot of my work is there, and take a look. And if you want to volunteer, you can do that too.
Awesome. Well, Sydney, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. A lot of great advice, a lot of great stories. Very inspiring to, you know, just keep forging ahead and make the best use of our time quarantined, and then be ready for when the floodgates open, you know?
Yes. And thank you. I got a couple of things to watch and to read. And so you've saved me some minutes in doing some searching.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so
definitely.
Thanks for that.
Absolutely. Well, Sydney, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on. To my viewers, I hope I've earned the privilege of your time and viewership. I know my guest has. And until next time, you know what to do.
All right. Bye.